Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on why Caustic Bath is free and...
Sorry guys. Yeah, welcome to my Viper item guide. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I would highly recommend watching them. If you're familiar with this build, maybe you don't need to watch them, that's okay. But this is going to explain the three main variations that Viper has, as well as some tips towards the counters you may face when you play this build. So, starting off, we've got the best build / default. The creme de crop. This is the best build you could possibly do. If you turn your brain off, you can make so many mistakes and this build will pay for itself. It's consistent. It is the reason I have such a high success rate on my build at the moment. As you can see, the little screenshot there, I had a 17-3 Viper win rate just recently. This build is essentially the result of change and perfection until we get to here. And I'm sure the build could change, but this is the best build you could do right now. What makes it so good is that not only are you going to keep yourself alive, but the active of Crimson goes to teammates and towers. This helps deal with so many of the flaws of the current Viper build and helps deal with counters such as Juggernaut and TB. So even if you're a trash player, you can run in with Crimson and Blade Mail and the dividends will just start coming in big time. As I said, this is the default build. If you can't figure out what to build, just go for this. So this is the ideal Aghs build. In my opinion, Aghs is overrated and so many players die after buying it. Even Topson, when I see who was purchasing this item quick, he would go in and overestimate how much he can do. And you are just not that sort of hero. Your hero gets a little bit of extra HP and attack reduction. This does not mean you can just 1v9. When you buy Aghs, you actually are pretty useless until you have Octarine as well. The common theme of Aghs at the moment, since this build is trending, is people go Travels first, then Aghs, and you are just so squishy. If you die once with this Aghs, your game starts falling apart, guaranteed. So absolutely do not go Travels quick, unless the circumstance calls for it. Every game of Dota is different, but I would say on average, just get an Octarine, maybe a Yules, then go back for Travels, or go Octarine, then Travels after you build the Aghs. Octarine and Aghs is such an important pairing because later on, and nearly every single item you build becomes an active and has a cooldown. So if you build Travels, you take 10 seconds off of Travels. If you build a Wind Waker later, it goes down to about 11 seconds. Mantisar gets shorter, the Bloodstone active gets shorter, Shivers, Blink Dagger, Dagon, all these things sit on around 10 seconds cooldown. So you can play this ranged poke game and you have so many dispels and saves because of Octarine. I find if I go this Aghs Octarine build, I end up wanting to build Mjolnir plus Bloodstone later because I need to carry out the game with some sort of heavy sustain, heavy damage build, and this is a nice way to secure your late game. Generally speaking, once you build Octarine, you can build absolutely anything you see on this screen, including items that are off of this build, but the main part of the Aghs build is Blade Mail, Aghs, then Octarine. The Travels build. So this is like a variation of the popular one we see now, except it's minus the Blade Mail and it's the Aghs before the Octarine. But the idea is you should always get Blade Mail as a baseline with this hero because the plays it opens up, especially the safe lane play, Blade Mail only helps you achieve this, and so you can go Travels afterwards and you can still have Travels at 12 to 15 minutes quite easily. For my boys in C, if you find your Chinese teammates are shouting motivational phrases such as "Chanlima," which means go forward and go quick, that usually means go Travels. Just a nice little tip for you guys. If the game is too fast, that's another reason you could be getting Travels. If it's just closing and your team needs like a +1 extra early, that's another reason to buy it. Honestly, guys, this Travels is a bait. Do not go this too often. You have to feel out for a very specific circumstance because nearly every time I have gone Travels, I wish I had gone Pipe, Crimson, or Aghs first before the Travels. Even if you build in the build order that you see on the screen being Blade Mail, Travels, Octarine, then Aghs, it's still good to have Aghs late. It is a mobility and it is really annoying for the enemy. They have a very small window to kill you because of the double nether toxin. So don't worry about rushing it if Aghs is only a mediocre item. So that's the three main builds, and obviously you can do anything with this hero. Follow maybe the first few items, and how you want to build after that is completely up to you. Okay, moving on to common mistakes I see in replays. I constantly repeat this, but it's for good reason. This is the cardinal sin of Viper players. They cannot take your tower for free. It is not allowed. If they come over as 5 heroes, you can literally 1v5 on Viper if you have Blade Mail. So please show up. Do not let this take damage. Even if you're only level 4, level 5, show up. swap the lanes, sit here, get farm, piss them off, easy game. As I've said a few times now, Travel's first item is wrong, especially if it's right after your braces. If you got this quick, you're still killable, you're not a fast hero, you don't have any extra HP from your Travels purchase. If you die once with Travels, I guarantee your game starts going to shit, so just don't do it and build it after your Blade Mail or after your Aghs Octarine. When you do build Aghs, this is like essentially getting a Battle Fury or a Radiance on a carry hero. If you start chasing heroes, you are wasting so much time and so much farm opportunity. Aghs is simply an item to bring your farm up, counter some heroes, but you never chase with Aghs. You should farm at least one more item. If you lost on Viper, I'm going to be honest, you're a lost cause. This hero is free MMR. The only way you can get this wrong is if you do the wrong item build. This next point is not really a huge mistake, but target priority basically meaning who you dive with your Aghs, who you use your ultimate on. If you use your ult when someone's already dead, that's a mistake. If you use your ult on a full HP support and then the Bristleback or the Ursa or the Monkey King Spectre comes in and you don't have ult, that's definitely a mistake. Make sure to save your ults and identify what you need to do in a fight given the ideal scenario plays out. The last point I can give you a great example on, when you verse Juggernaut in lane, his spin is really trash, guys. It does no damage to you. Even if you misuse your Nether Toxin and he goes on you, as long as you're clicking him constantly, you have a stick, you have 2 Fairy Fires, there's no way he beats you in this trade. Moving on to the top 3 most annoying matchups I'm seeing, so we're going to start it off with Terrorblade. The general game plan of versing TB is, let's say you verse him in the off lane, you'd keep shoving the lane back and forth with Nether Toxin, maybe using Nether Toxin on a small camp, farming his big camp, and eventually you're looking to leave this lane and do the safe lane play. Eventually you may find the enemy Terrorblade does the same thing and wants to farm the off lane in front of you, and if this happens, that is great. You just continually farm BM to Crimson to Aghs to Lotus to Shivas, and in the late mid game you can nosedive onto TB, ult him, hit your Crimson, hit your Shivas, hit your Lotus, and he cannot use Sunder on you, and you're just doing immense damage to him, his illusions, and you actually may score a kill on this hero. The main thing is, as the game goes on later, it's best to use your ult and keep distance. You can also buy E-Blade Dagon to force his Manta, or if he does Manta, you hit E-Blade Dagon ult and walk away, and you can do like 3000 damage from range. In the super late game, you can do nothing to this hero, so you've just got to hope you have a good draft to deal with him, and just do the E-Blade Dagon, Shivas, Lotus plays that I mentioned before. Next, we have Juggernaut. I just spoke about this in the common mistakes, but spin is useless. Just use your bracer advantage, your double bracer advantage, your stick advantage to beat this hero in lane. Viper's innate predator means if you do a one-on-one trade to a Juggernaut in lane, the lower he gets, the worse it is. Like, he just can't win this. The only time he can kill you is at level 6. And if you did lose this lane, it is probably your support's fault, if I'm completely honest. Be sure to blame your support player if you lose this lane. A bit of a MMR hipster build you can do is Blade Mail into Vanguard, dissemble for Lotus, back to Vanguard again, go Crimson, go Aghs, go Yules, go Octarine, go Wind Waker. Aghs is low-key not that good on this matchup. You can still buy it because the mobility is useful, the HP is useful. You can do the Aghs build where you just go BM Aghs. You will die to Omni Slash if you do this. You can literally go the whole game without Aghs if there's not much value in it and you don't really want to use it to farm. As soon as you get Vanguard, you can tank Omni Slash by yourself, and this gets even worse for Juggernaut as you get Crimson Guard. If you don't know when you use Crimson Guard, it works against Omni Slash. I can nearly guarantee Juggernaut will ult you multiple times before he realizes it's just not going to work. A niche scenario that may not happen too often is that if you ult Juggernaut first, the attack slow goes through on his ult, so he attacks extremely slow, and he's not critting because he is broken. This also disables his innate, and if you don't know what Jugg's innate is, it's like a reverse backstab. Any attacks to the front of a target will do extra damage, and this always works in Omni Slash, so that is also disabled by Viper's ult. Just like Terrorblade, Hex Blink later can be nice, and it's probably better if you do this with a stunner like a Mars and Earthshaker. Ghost Scepter is not too bad of an item. I think it's of the moment. If you build it late game, or if you build it after Yules, it'll have some value for a bit, but he's going to have Nullifier by that point, I'm sure. The last matchup we're going to talk about is Ursa. Unless your monitor is turned off, this Ursa hero is not so good against Viper. If you just hit him constantly, anytime he goes on you, you throw down Nether Toxin, he doesn't actually get any good trades on you. By level 3 or 5, he might find a kill opportunity because his support is a good player. But I still think if you do the right things, if you aggro well, if you hit him continually so your innate is working, you can absolutely bin Ursa. When this lane is level 6, just like Juggernaut, Ursa can definitely kill you, especially if he has a mid rotation. So this is where you do the safe lane play and go to an Aghs build. You can still do a Crimson build, a Travels build, you can do any sort of build. My reasoning behind doing Aghs against Ursa, I like the mobility and I think of it as building Pike against Ursa. It just helps you separate, go up a cliff, reset, all that jazz. If you do end up building Aghs and Octarine, I'd probably build Yules, Blink, Hex, and Wind Waker after. It's a confusing hero. You either stomp really hard because your ult breaks him and he can't do much, and then other times it's just Nightfall on his Smurf account stomping your whole team and you can do nothing against it. Basically, if your team is bad, Ursa will probably win this matchup 90% of the time because he will feast off your teammates and then he will not care about you in the later portions of the game. And the most important thing that you guys need to understand is Viper is the easiest hero in the game, but the items are so hard. You can just be so impactful in the first 15 minutes and then throw it 16 minutes because you've gone the wrong item. It really feels like that. If you lose on this hero, it is because the items. My item build is different nearly every game now, but it always follows a baseline. So if I go the Crimson build, I might do Blade Mail into Crimson, then switch it to an Aghs Octarine afterwards, or I might go Manta Style and Shivas, or Mjolnir and Bloodstone. Usually, I always go the Crimson build. If you aren't subscribed to my Steam guide, be sure to go down into the description and subscribe to it there. You can just follow that Crimson part of the guide to a T and you'll probably do just fine. And that is the Caustic Bath Viper guide. I have a basic flowchart of the 3 item builds that I talked about in this video in my Discord. Again, join that one. I'll have links for everything in the description and the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.